walkthrough form that supports classroom teachers by creating a walkthrough form that will aid in identifying strengths and needs of the classroom environment to promote an everlasting learning experience for all students. So the topic is we'll look at the snapshot of Spencer Middle School TAPR report, overview of walkthrough documents, establishing the components that we may want to see in our walkthrough document, and then developing a walkthrough document. So once again, last night I emailed you guys the TAPR, which is on there, and I just want you guys to take a glance of it and the information on it. I'll give you about 4 minutes to look at that and just kind of self-internalize what we're going through. I got you. I will send it to you.
Thanks. I didn't even look at it yet.
And I just sent it to you. In case some of you don't know what the TAPR is, it's just a data over our school. So it's like our performance data for each ethnicity that we have, each demographic we have here at the school, and how they perform through the STAR test. It's our attendance, it's the it also you can tell how much money we make, how much money each teacher makes, and the disciplinary dropout rate and attendance rate. And it also shows how we compare to So based off of the TPA report, what does the report tell us about our school and the school?
Between the years of when they took the STAR test in 2022 across the board, regardless of the grade level, you see it's honestly a significant drop in their ability to be able to make approaches meets or masters. So you definitely see, I don't know if it's a drop in comprehension or in terms of a lack of just effort in the classroom. It's really hard to tell, but you can definitely see that across the board.
What about you, Ms. Prince? What do you
Well,
gather from that?
There's pretty significant racial, like the breakdown of meeting and mastering, just looking at grade 6 reading is, upsetting to look at, just based on the 3 main populations that they have there. What stood out to me.
What about you, Mr. Sales?
Me just 1 second. Same thing, basically. There are some disparities in race as it comes down to achievement, and also the special ed population as well.
What about you, Ms. Jackson?
Kind of feel there's certain trends that kind of everybody kind of touched on, especially with the special populations. Like I read EB populations,
That they're
and
struggling.
and looking at looking at science and seeing how like compared to 23 and the 22 school year, there's been like some like fluctuations in the data too, and I'm kind of like what Pender said, just wondering like
What's going on?
Mhm.
What's the gaps? Achievement gaps.
Mhm.
All right, so based off of that, what do we feel that our campus needs based off this data?
I would say that we can work on ways to target more engagement in the classrooms. Maybe being intentional about how students are grouped when doing group work. Maybe kind of stagger it with some students who are higher achieving or higher performing that can fit into some of those groups.
What do you think, Ms. Bennett?
I would also say maybe just analyze, students' comprehension as well. Especially acknowledging the rigorous curriculum that is being utilized this school year. Just being able to understand, taking a look, for example, at the iReady data initially and figuring out, okay, where are students falling on that comprehension, and how can we go about addressing this so that they can actually understand and break down the texts as well as the questions that they are having to come in contact with on, the common assessments, ACPs, and the STAR tests.
What do you think, Ms. Prince?
I agree with both of y'all. My brain kind of went the same place as Mr. Sales. I feel like, small group instruction, and then just, being really data driven, especially for those kids or for those groups of kids where we're seeing the biggest gaps.
What about you, Sister Jackson?
I agree with these guys as well. Something about the EB population and knowing how much percentage they make up in our schools versus kind of looking at some of the science data and whatnot. Like it says here, I don't know if I'm reading it correctly, but like 18 to 13% was at meets, and I just think maybe like one thing we need to look for is kind of something that's going to help a little bit more with vocabulary. Because science is very concept based.
So you feel like working with either across curriculum teaching will help boost that up?
Yeah, I like that too, for sure.
All right. So now that we have identified that, we're gonna look at the overall overview of documents. So within your package, I have put 3 examples as walkthrough forms. I'm gonna give you 2 minutes just to analyze those. One is talking about focus on environment and culture. One is talking about focus on, another one is just a general. I just want you to really pay attention to the components. And then afterwards, I'll let you speak on it, and then I'll discuss the walkthrough form that we use here at Spence. And our administration is doing observations on your classroom. So, based on what you see on the walkthrough forms that I have presented before you, how do you feel about the walkthrough forms and the components they cover?
Well, personally, something I really like about the first walkthrough form, which focuses on the classroom observation checklist on the first one. I like the fact that as it's going through, it's kind of identifying those specific areas in which you're looking for. I think that's key in ensuring that not only the person observing, but the person who is being observed is aware of those pinpoints, so they're able to put them into practice on a day-to-day basis. I also like when looking at the instruction and rigor in terms of the areas in which they're looking at. Something I definitely would have liked to have seen, and I feel like, and it could have possibly been on here. It's a little, it's a little hard to see. But I do really think that, and something that would probably aid in the engagement is the cultural relevance. Just being able to tie it to something that connects to these
Real world.
students. Yeah, their past, their who they are, their cultures, to kind of aid again also in that vocabulary. We're looking at science as well.
Okay. What about you, Ms. I mean, first,
I like, if we're talking about which ones we like
Yeah.
the most, maybe, I think I like the second two better. They feel at least more aligned to like Spence. Yeah, I feel like they're pretty comprehensive too for what you should expect to see when you go into the classroom.
What about you, Mr. Sales?
I do like all three in their own different ways. The last two I do like a little bit better because it allows room for the observers to take notes, but also leaves space for follow-up to clear up any misconceptions or any follow-up questions the observer may have.
And Ms. Jackson?
I like these too. One thing that came to my mind is all three of these are kind of focusing on like different things. This one's a little bit more general. And when I first saw this one, I was thinking about how this one could possibly be used like later on in the year for some reason. Like using each one for different like portions or different things to highlight. One thing that I do like on the instruction and rigor, it says embedded literacy. I read that wrong, and it says writing across curriculum, and I read like cross curriculum, just write. And I was either way, I actually like that, especially for science because concept writing is something that's important, and it's definitely on our star. So to even know that focuses
Exists,
on writing across the curriculum, I like that.
And it's the same thing for the one that our administration uses here, right? Ms. Sewell gave me a copy of it, and it's based off of, we do TEI here, right? Now, a lot of schools in Texas do TEI. I was just fortunate for one of them, and it's based off of the main 2, 3, and 4. Is that the right one? The data form for Spence.
It's domains 2 and 3.
Domains 2 and 3, which is around structure, how we
So
run our
structure and
classroom,
deployment.
like you said, which is something that these kind of tie to in a way. Correct. So, what components would you like to see in our walking form that we could?
I'll just say that I like the second two better, I feel, because the first one seems a little bit more rigid, and also it has the evaluator check for negative things, which stood out to me because the other two don't. And it made me think of how when we're making our treatment agreements with our kids, we always try to frame the statements as like a positive instead of don't do this, we won't do this. And so I don't know, I just noticed that was different.
I think teachers, if I'm getting like the first one, if I'm getting that back from my evaluator, it would make me kind of have a sour taste in my mouth.
Yeah.
Right? Opposed to you writing, what's my strengths and what do you need me to work on.
Just not applying.
Yeah.
I agree with Prince. This one made me feel like this is not the first this is not the first checklist you would use with this group.
Right.
That's why I kind of was like, yeah.
Your last comprehensive right there.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
make it or break it.
What about you, Ms. Sales?
Yeah,
What you
I
wanna
agree. I think that in the one we create, it should have more room for us to give positive feedback or focus on some of the positive things, and then even if there is something that we don't necessarily like or something like that happening in the classroom, we're able to put it into perspective and then come up with a plan to fix it. Mhm.
What about you, Ms. Spencer?
Yeah, no, I'd have to agree with that. As well as like, you know, with this being able to kind of say I'm, you know, that teacher in the classroom and I'm the one being observed. I also feel like this is a better setup, this last one. But I like for some of the areas, I would definitely love to see, you know, maybe some in terms of examples just to provide, especially for our novice teachers, so they understand. Okay, this is what I'm looking for, and here's some examples of how you can go about doing this in the classroom, to provide an opportunity, a more positive opportunity, and it allows the observer to have a more concise area for feedback.
And I think that's what's important about doing these things, right? Is our novice teachers who are first year teachers who have no experiences and try to give them the best feedback as possible when creating this, and getting them to understand that it's not to hurt you but to build you into a better teacher or a master teacher. Establishing components. So, what needs to be included in our work plan? I mean, Ms. Pender gave a great thing, like a example of what we're looking for our novice teachers.
And for your novice coaches.
Yeah.
I mean, for everyone, so that people can also not just focus on the negative, which is sometimes what, you know, the human brain kind of just does naturally. So I'm kind of taking what you two guys said and creating
What you think,
opportunities,
sister?
framework.
Like Mosley?
What should be included?
Yes.
For sure, like your lesson plan, like if the teachers mapped out their lesson, and then also the, I call it student work, but, you did the work that the students, if they're supposed to be doing their output, and then also like, you can see the misconceptions that the teacher already saw, like, okay, these kids will have issues with number 5 or number 6, and maybe see a few questions to kind of back that up, just so you can see that the teacher actually knows the lesson, instead of just being like, oh, okay, I looked on Amplify today and I kind of know it, instead of actually having that hard copy and having the data there.
What you think, Brother Sale?
Yeah, I agree. Having a plan for misconceptions is always super important, because once you lose it, it's always hard to swoop back after you've kind of said the wrong thing or don't have an answer for something a student asks.
What about you, Ms. Fran?
Yeah, if we're thinking about the direct teach and then releasing the kids to work independently, I think, pre-planning for misconceptions, but also in the moment responding to misconceptions. So taking, assessing their grasp, like their level of understanding, and like being flexible in the moment to adjust.
So, dear, Jackson, scaffolding, basically.
And another thing I think that would be very valuable, especially for those who are observing in the classroom, just to be able to be provided, even if it's something as simple as having everybody produce their, their teacher exemplars in a Google Drive, so that whoever, the walkthrough team, whoever it is, has access to it and is able to understand, okay, this is what I should be seeing, this is how I should see the teacher addressing these misconceptions, asking for those checks for understandings, so that they already have a clear alignment and understanding prior to walking to the classroom.
This is what's going on.
And then everybody's on the same page. And then also, I think it'll be very valuable that once, so for example, providing that focus. So what area of focus do I really think this, teacher might need to touch on, then providing them with a, essentially a reflection page where they can go and, observe a more, advanced teacher who might have more of a, grasp on that specific skill, and then having them to figure out, okay, what do you see that they did here? How can you utilize this within your own classroom? Basically just having a before, during, and after tour.
Okay.
Like a follow-up.
Yeah.
Follow,
Mhm.
post observation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Alright, so would you say that it would be feasible to have like a time, like, hey, on this day, I'm gonna meet up with you, we're gonna discuss these things, the strong points you did and some things that I need you to work on?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that should be included.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what should be the ultimate goal? So what are we gonna focus on? What is it gonna focus? Is it gonna focus on instruction and rigor? Is it gonna focus on classroom environment? Is it gonna focus on student behavior? Like, what is our walkthrough form gonna focus on?
Should be all.
To a certain
Yeah.
extent.
At least a little piece of each one.
Yeah, like you
Mhm.
can't get super in depth within, you can't cover all of that
Yeah.
necessarily in one little visit, but I think it should
Should
all.
like touch on it.
I feel like in terms of maybe make it so that you have a folder that encompasses a walkthrough form that might target a specific area. So maybe 1 week,
That day.
or
Mhm.
during these 3 weeks,
Mhm.
the team is looking for this specific. So looking at climate and culture. Well, then opposed to the next 3 weeks, they're looking at instruction and rigor.
Okay.
And then I feel like then you have a checklist for each, or say that you might have a concern for a specific teacher,
Mhm.
and you're like, oh
Mhm.
no, they need this at this point. Let me go ahead and take a step in the classroom, use this checklist to go ahead and observe them, and then go ahead and do that follow up.
So you feel like it's feasible to have multiple depending on what teacher?
Mhm.
Yeah, like this,
Yeah.
like these
Yeah,
two.
and the layout may be a little bit different because you may have 3 questions that's a checklist, then you may have 3 questions where you actually go in and write certain things. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Maybe this one first, environment and culture,
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
and then from there, check on their instruction, and then we can start using a rigid
Kind of
one.
like we did
Mhm.
this year. We built
Mhm.
on, like, that was the first thing we did.
Mhm.
Classroom
Scaffolded.
climate and culture.
Well,
And yeah,
you know,
I
For
feel
me
like,
personally, doing this and tomorrow will be like my 6th walkthrough
Mm-hmm.
event. Not actually walk through, but like my 6th observe. I prefer the writing part.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's easier for me to track and put down what I'm thinking at that point in time.
Mhm.
And this first one where you're checking.
Yeah.
and you
Yeah,
have to
it's
go
hard
back
to
and say,
follow
okay,
up with
what
any of that.
happened?
Mhm.
What happened?
And that's
So,
more meaningful for us to receive
Real feedback.
as
Yeah.
feedback, as
Mhm.
opposed.
at this time, like, I prefer scripting
Mhm.
stuff out. At 10:30, Johnny raised his hand, and either you moved on to the next kid and ignored Johnny, or Johnny answered and you never took the time to guide him towards the right answer.
Yeah.
So I agree with you guys on this form of
Mhm.
observation when it comes to teachers. But I believe we all feel like we do have to have
Mhm.
that meaningful observation opposed to saying, okay, you did this, and this was somewhat evident on this.
it's like, what did you
Yeah,
like
right.
about it that I
Yeah.
did, or how can I improve from there?
So, with that being said, developing our form. So share me some ideas. I know you touched on it, but give me some ideas. I know we agreed that it should look like, the walkthrough checklist 2 and 3, right?
Mhm.
Where it's just more accessible and you are able to handwrite what you see.
Mhm.
What is something else?
I feel like we definitely need to pull directly from the waterfall.
Mhm.
Like when we're looking at domains 2 and 3, we need to go to
The
specifically
wording.
pull
Yeah.
that wording right there so that they're aware when it comes to that comprehensive observation, 45-minute observation that they have to do. It's not like a blindsided of, oh, well, I've been doing it based off of what it looked like thus far. Kind of like we do for our kids. We're like, okay, we're showing them exactly what to expect on the stars. So I feel like by giving our teachers exactly what to expect on, that observation that some people say makes or breaks them, doesn't really, but do
Mhm.
it from there.
Yeah.
But the question is, what can we do with it? How can we perfect our 10-minute spot observation?
Mm.
I would
So-
like with the domains for example? You see
Our big one is, but the 10-minute one may not, it may be.
So this one we don't necessarily need domain.
But
but-
we put it there, then the teacher can know. 'Cause
That we're looking at that.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and then they'll be ready for
Yeah.
their spots and stuff.
Well, because these are domains 2 and 3.
Yeah.
Like this
Mhm.
this
Right
is
here.
2, this is 3.
Mhm.
So
But I was like, just put it because I don't know everybody.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
would say essentially, so that goes back to the example. So say you broke it up, because since we're really only focusing on those 2 domains, but say you kind of gave them each a quarter to focus on,
Mm-hmm.
then going through and breaking these up into different sections. So,
Mm-hmm.
all right, for this 10-minute observation, we're gonna go ahead and focus on classroom appearance.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and give that feedback. Let's go ahead and figure out that focus and those guiding questions. You know, give them a week, 2 weeks,
Mhm.
however, to go back and kind of implement it. And then from there, then that following week, you can go ahead and move on to classroom management.
So we should probably pick one area
Mhm.
of even this one for like a 10-minute, because like even like Miss Mosley said, like you may come in just to see did the teacher backwards plan, like did they work through the work, and do they have something that shows, okay, I went through this lesson, this is what my kids are going to be asked, and this is what they'll be expected to do at the end.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, it's kind of like we're prepping them for the big
Mm-hmm.
one at the end. We're
Mhm.
gonna hit you with this one this week, see if you fix whatever we see in your classroom, then maybe a week or 2 later, come back and hit you with something else
Mhm.
and see if that is. Although we still may be looking at what we talked about 2 weeks ago,
Right.
we're gonna move on to a different component of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, bite size.
So
Yeah.
waterfall. I was
That's-
like,
Yeah.
Same thing.
Waterfall.
Same thing.
Mhm.
And that's good too for new teachers, I feel.
Mm-hmm.
It's not as overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I'm thinking about myself as a new teacher when y'all brought that up. Like,
Mhm.
dang, like, when I had my first spot or major observation, I'm like, okay, what are they looking for? What
Mhm.
should I be doing? What should I not be doing? What should my students not be doing?
But
You know,
these walkthroughs would have helped you prepare for that.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If I had to follow
Yeah,
follow
follow
back
back.
meeting
Mhm.
afterwards,
That's
where
the
you were
biggest
able to
thing.
say, hey, this is your strong point. This is what you need help on, right? Opposed to, you do it and then I never see you again
And then I
for the
feel
rest of
like
the year.
I feel like it also aids in the understanding between the observer and the teacher that they're observing, because sometimes what somebody sees at one point of view might not necessarily what is being actually construed within the classroom. So it kind of hopes to address those misconceptions between those 2 parties as well.
Because it's only 10 minutes.
It's
Mhm.
literally it's 10
Okay.
minutes, so there's only so much you can see. Exactly.
Anybody else have anything else they wanna add? So I'm gonna try to go through tonight and create something kind of similar to this one with all 4 components that we talked about and have it developed by tomorrow. And tomorrow we'll just do a quick 10-minute walkthrough.
Okay.
Right, and then after that, we'll do a post observation with whatever teacher that is chosen. Okay.
Not me.